Every woodworker needs a good woodworker's mallet to keep around the shop. Whether you're someone that likes to pick up the occasional chisel and chisel out a mortise, or whether you're trying to assemble two pieces of furniture and that needs a little bit of physical encouragement, a mallet is a great utility tool. Now there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that showcase the traditional wedged tenon design where the handle and the mallet head are two separate pieces. And this design has worked for hundreds of years and there's nothing wrong with it. But because we've got access to a CNC, that opens up a whole new realm of things that we can potentially design. And trust me, I went through a number of iterations to find the right size, shape, and weight of the mallet to come up with the design for both a large and a small mallet that fits the bill perfectly. Now these plans are available in the description below if you want to have a look, or you can just follow along and get inspired to make your own. The mallet will be comprised of 3 different pieces. The larger piece will form the handle, while the smaller 2 identical pieces will form the head of the mallet. There's also a rectangular cavity in the center of the mallet head to allow steel BBs to be added for additional weight if that's desired. Half-inch holes have been added to help facilitate alignment during the final assembly between the 3 pieces and to add additional flair to the final mallet. I'll be starting this build by focusing on the mallet handles, which I'll be making out of Turkish olive. There's a few things I'd like to exclude from the handles, such as some bark, some cracks, and a few knots. So I start off by roughly marking out where I would like the handles to be carved from. Once I've got that roughly laid out on the slab itself, I head over to the bandsaw just to make a few rough cuts and make the lumber a little bit easier to deal with. Once I've got the olive down to a more manageable size, I head over to my jointer and planer to finish the milling process and get it down to final dimensions for the handle carve. I'll be using some toe clamps along with my threaded inserts to secure the stock in place during the carve. You'll notice an L-shaped bracket in the lower left-hand corner, which allows me to index future pieces in the same spot, so if you're batching out multiple pieces in a row, makes this very quick. This spoil board system has completely revolutionized my workflow in the CNC, so if you haven't seen that video already, I encourage you to check it out. I'll have it linked in the description below. With our workpiece secure, we can now build the first tool paths in our CNC software. I'll be focusing on carving the large mallet handle and the small mallet handle first, using a 1/4-inch downcut end mill. I'll be using tabs in very specific locations to ensure the pieces don't move throughout the carve. I try to pick flat locations so that the tabs are easy to remove in the next step. With the tool paths finalized, I send the G-code to my CNC controller and get to work. With both of the mallet handles cut, I can now turn my attention to the mallet heads. For this, I'll be using some Wingay that I milled off camera, which is a really dense African blackwood. Similar to before, I sent the G-code over to my CNC and let it get to work. As I've grown my experience with the CNC, I've come to really appreciate the use of tabs to secure the workpiece during a carve. Not only does it allow you to quickly change out the stock between batching operations, but it minimizes the downtime between carves and increases your productivity. The only downside is it leaves a nub on the bottom edge, but a flush trim router bit can make real quick work of those nubs. I'll be adding a roundover to the mallet handle to give it a more comfortable grip, and in my experimentation, the 5/16 roundover bit gave the most comfortable feel. It's important to do the roundover prior to assembling the mallet while you can still take this mallet handle and push it flat against the router table. If you wait until after final assembly, this step becomes a lot more challenging. Now this next part is completely optional, but it's a great way to add a little bit of flair to your mallet. You can use these brass tubes and cutter that I got from Amazon. Simply cut it 1/4 inch longer than what you need. And if you use one of these cutters, it leaves a nice rounded profile on the top part of the tube, which makes it easier to pound it into the mallet. Now, I say easier, you still have to beat the thing like it owes you money, but it does fit into this hole perfectly. We'll be using some 1/2-inch dowels to help with the alignment during the final assembly. Now the holes have been undersized relative to the size of the dowel by about 1/100 of an inch. This way we can sand the dowel to be a perfect fit for the holes that we have designed. Now in order to get them down to final dimension, we're going to be using a little bit of sanding paper and a little bit of elbow. What's that noise? Oh my god. Should I blur this? Oh god, that's somehow worse. Okay, we're gonna fast forward this part. Let's get to putting a chamfered edge on the dowel so it goes through each one of the 3 pieces seamlessly. Sorry about that. I don't know what my video editor was thinking. Alright, getting back on track. One of the things I learned as I was prototyping different designs is there can be a little bit of glue buildup on the corner edge between the mallet and the handle. And so to prevent this from happening, I'm going to take a little bit of extra time to put some blue painter's tape just to protect that edge and prevent that glue buildup from happening, because then that affects the stain and just kind of ruins the overall look of the mallet. Once that's done though, it's then time to do the final glue up. And this is pretty simple and straightforward because all the pieces align together. Now one additional step we're going to be taking before we complete the glue up is filling that center cavity full of steel BBs. Now in my experimentation, I found the sweet spot for me was to fill it up about halfway. I found that if I filled it completely full, it was a little bit too heavy. And I'm going to be using some 2-part epoxy to make sure that the BBs don't move. Now, you can leave them in there loose, but then it kind of rattles around like a baby's rattle, and I didn't really want that. So again, just for my prototyping, I'm choosing to make some of these design decisions that suits more of what I'm looking for in a mallet. Once that work is complete, I drive home the dowels just to ensure there's perfect alignment between the 3 different pieces, and then I use some F-style clamps to apply pressure while the glue sets. Once the glue dries, the excess dowels can be taken care of using a flush trim saw. And one last step before applying finish is to put a chamfered edge around the head of the mallet to soften all of the sharp edges. I'll be finishing this project using some tung oil, which is normally not my go-to finish, but I experimented with a few different types of finish on my other mallets and found this one to be the best all-round finish. I tried Rubio Monocoat, I tried Odie's oil, tried mineral oil, and some wipe-on poly, but the tung oil provided the best combination of comfort in the hand as well as protection. I applied 2 coats over the course of 2 days, and I could not have been happier with how it turned out.